He doesn't text you back, and you think it's about you. You think maybe you said too much, or not enough. Maybe you should have waited longer to reply. Maybe your last message wasn't cute enough, or maybe he's just busy, working, sleeping, forgot his phone. You invent reasons, excuses, little emotional bandages. But deep inside, in that quiet place you hate going to, something twists, something whispers, "This isn't about logistics, this is about truth," and the truth is brutal. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." That includes you. That includes him. So when he doesn't text you back, it's not just silence, it's shadow. His shadow, yours. You don't want to see it, but it's there. It always was. You mistake his silence for confusion, but it's clarity. He doesn't want to face you, because to face you, he would have to face himself. And most men are not ready to do that, especially with a woman who sees too much, who feels too much, who touches the places they buried long ago. He's not texting you back because you activate something in him, something ancient, something he hasn't named, the anima, the feminine soul within him that he exiled long ago. You remind him of her, the tenderness he repressed, the vulnerability he denied, the softness he rejected to survive. You didn't mean to, but you became a mirror. And mirrors are dangerous. They reflect the truth. And the truth? The truth is terrifying. You, woman, are terrifying. Not because you're aggressive, but because you are deep. And depth frightens shallow men. They want light, laughter, distraction, not depth, not revelation, not you. You tell yourself stories. You think, if I were prettier, smarter, funnier, thinner, he would reply. Lies, all lies. He's not ignoring you because of your flaws. He's retreating because of your depth. Because when you speak, something in him stirs. The unconscious, the forgotten, the cracked foundations. He doesn't want to feel. He wants to control. And you, with your soul wide open, cannot be controlled. You can be loved, but not controlled. And that terrifies him more than anything. You didn't do anything wrong. You did something rare. You connected. You touched something real. And realness is radioactive. It burns through the masks, through the games, through the ego. He's not texting you back because you cracked his illusion. You broke the script. He wanted casual. You brought the cosmos. He wanted pleasure. You brought presence. He wanted a body. You offered a soul. And now he's haunted. Because once a man meets a woman who embodies the divine feminine, every other woman becomes a ghost. But he'll still chase the ghosts, because they're easier, safer, dead inside like him. This isn't about texts. This is about trauma. His, yours. He was taught not to feel. You were taught to earn love by shrinking, by waiting, by hurting in silence. And now the two of you are dancing a trauma tango. You, waiting. Him, vanishing. You, hoping. Him, hiding. And underneath it all, the same wound, the same terror, the same unconscious scream. Will I ever be enough? Carl Jung didn't believe in coincidences. If you're here, reading this, it's because your soul is ready. Ready to see what the ego wants to avoid. Ready to wake up. He's not texting you back because you were never meant to be consumed. You were meant to be awakened. By pain. By rejection. By silence. His silence is not punishment. It's prophecy. A calling. To go inward. To see the girl inside you still waiting for the text. Still waiting to be chosen. Still waiting for a man to confirm what she refuses to confirm for herself. That she is worthy. But no man can give you that. Not really. That's your task. Your holy initiation. The confrontation with your own soul. You wanted a reply. What you needed was revelation. His silence is your teacher. It forces you into the silence you've been avoiding. Your own. Your rage. Your longing. Your ache. And somewhere in that ache lives your shadow. The parts of you you hide. The neediness, the shame, the desperation, the girl who chases love like a drug. That girl deserves to be seen. not judged, seen, not abandoned, loved by you. Because when you love her, really love her, his silence won't matter. You won't need the text. You'll write your own, to your heart, to your soul. You'll whisper, "I'm here, I won't leave." And that whisper will become a roar, and that roar will become a shield. And one day, when another man doesn't text you back, you won't spiral. You'll smile. Not with arrogance, but with knowing. You'll see through the illusion. You'll feel the tug, but you won't bite. You'll remember this isn't about him. It never was. It was always about you, meeting yourself, in the fire, in the silence, in the shadow. Because the woman who meets herself in the shadow is unstoppable. He doesn't text you back, and yet, somehow, he still lives in your mind, rent-free. Every vibration of your phone triggers a nervous pulse. Every pause in your day is an invitation for your mind to wander into that abyss, that silence. You replay old messages, analyze old emojis, compare timestamps. You turn yourself into a detective of emotional crime scenes, searching for the moment he began to disappear. But he didn't disappear. He retreated into the comfort of his inner cave. And you? You're standing outside that cave, torch in hand, begging the shadow to explain itself. It never will, because this was never about communication. It was about confrontation. Your need for a reply isn't just longing, it's defiance. Your soul demanding closure from someone who never promised clarity. Carl Jung warned us, what you resist not only persists, but grows stronger. And now his silence isn't just absence, it's possession. He lives in your psyche. He hijacks your dreams. He steals your focus. Not because of love, but because of projection. You projected your longing onto him. You made him a savior, a symbol, an answer to your inner question. Am I lovable? But he was never that. He was just a man, a confused one, a scared one, maybe even a broken one, and you built a shrine to his potential. You didn't love him. You loved what he could become. You saw a man and imagined a myth, and now the myth is ghosting you. And it hurts, because you weren't just ignored. You were forgotten by your own fantasy, your own illusion. And when an illusion shatters, it doesn't just sting, it devastates. Because it wasn't just about him, it was about what you thought he meant. And now, you're unraveling, because part of you still wants to believe it was a mistake, that the silence was an error, that love got lost in the static. But it didn't. It was never love. It was unconscious hunger, the hunger to matter, the hunger to be seen. And you believed that if you were perfect enough, quiet enough, beautiful enough, he would see you. But you don't need to be seen by a man to exist. You are not a reflection of his attention. You are not a whisper waiting for a reply. You are the echo of centuries of women silenced, and now you scream. You scream in your sleep, in your texts, in your overthinking, but the scream isn't about him. It's the scream of every part of you that was told to wait, to be small, to earn affection like a prize. It's the scream of the little girl who was told that being good was the only way to be loved. And now you're not a girl. You're a woman. And goodness won't save you. Obedience won't free you. You don't need to shrink to be worthy. You don't need to beg the ghost for validation. Jung believed that healing begins when we meet the shadow. And this moment, this silence, is your invitation. His silence is the door, but the shadow behind it, that's yours. It's the fear of abandonment, the addiction to fantasy, the hope that someone else will fix the wound your father, your first love, your past left behind. But they won't. They can't. No man can rescue you from the work you refuse to do. And the work, it's this: sitting in the void, feeling the ache, naming the ache, and refusing to fill it with more illusions. Because when a woman stops running from her ache, she becomes dangerous. Not to men, to patterns, to systems, to lies. A woman who no longer needs a text to believe she matters. She's untouchable. She becomes her own archetype, the sovereign, the priestess, the healer. She stops chasing men who ignore her and starts walking with the fire of every woman who came before her. She doesn't ask, "Why didn't he reply?" She asks, "Why did I think his reply was more important than my own voice?" This isn't about revenge or closure. This is about initiation into power, into self, into truth. And truth is ugly before it's beautiful. Truth says, you chose him because he mirrored your wound. Truth says, you waited for him because you were still waiting for yourself. Truth says, you are not heartbroken over him. You are heartbroken over how easily you abandoned yourself for a man who couldn't even send a sentence. Let that truth burn. Let it destroy the girl who needed to be chosen. Let it birth the woman who chooses herself, the woman who doesn't ask questions, who doesn't beg for answers, who sits in her silence and finds God there. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But becoming isn't pretty. It's not soft. It's not romantic. It's brutal. It's blood and bone and breaking. It's silence. The same silence he left you in. But now, it's yours. And in it, you will find the parts of yourself that no text could ever validate. Because he was never the answer. He was the trigger, the catalyst, the mirror, and now the mirror is broken, and all that's left is you. Finally, you, whole, raw, unfiltered, a woman forged in fire. He doesn't text you back, and still, you wait, not just for him. You wait for the version of you that will feel whole again, the version that won't care, the one who doesn't check her phone 100 times a day. But she doesn't come, because she doesn't exist yet. She is being carved, cut out of the stone of your pain. The silence is the chisel. Every moment you don't get a reply is another crack in the marble of your illusion. You are breaking, but not down. Open. You thought this was heartbreak. It's not. It's revelation. And revelations are violent. They don't arrive in soft whispers. They arrive in silence so loud it shatters your identity. Because who are you when you're not being wanted? Who are you when no one's reaching out? Who are you without the mirror of male attention? These questions terrify you. And that's why you keep checking your phone. Because it's easier to chase a reply than to sit with your soul. Your soul doesn't lie. And what it's whispering now? That's the reason you're reading this. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That text you never got back? That was fate. But not the romantic kind, not destiny. It's the fate of every woman who abandoned herself. It's the fate you inherited. The story written in your blood. Your mother's silence. Your grandmother's longing. Your lineage of women who were trained to wait, to hurt, to hope, to beg, to break. But now, the cycle ends with you. If you're brave enough to face it, there is a part of you that still believes love means being chosen. That if a man picks you, replies to you, stays with you, you finally become real. But you were always real. Even when ignored, even when ghosted, even when discarded. Realness isn't given by others, it's remembered, reclaimed, and sometimes painfully so. That's why this silence feels like death, because it is. The death of your old self, the one who thought she had to perform to be loved, the one who thought she had to wait, the one who thought his attention was a prize. But there are no prizes here, only lessons. And this one, it cuts deep, because it doesn't just ask you to let go of him. It asks you to let go of the part of you that needed him, the persona you wore to be loved, the girl who dimmed her light so she wouldn't intimidate, the woman who pretended to want less, feel less, need less, just to be tolerated. Jung called it the mask. And you wore it so well, you forgot it was a lie. But the mask always slips when truth knocks. And now it's slipping, cracking, dying. He doesn't text you back because he was never meant to stay. He was meant to trigger, to awaken, to reveal the places in you that were still asleep. You want to blame him. You want to scream. You want to cry. Do it. Let it all out. Not because he deserves your energy, but because you deserve release. You deserve to grieve, not just the man, but the illusion, the dream, the fantasy of finally being enough for someone who could never even face himself. You thought you were losing love. You were losing your chains. And freedom? It never feels like freedom at first. It feels like abandonment, like emptiness, like pain, because your nervous system is still wired to crave chaos. You don't want peace. Not really. You want the high, the message, the dopamine hit of being wanted. But that's not love. That's addiction. And the first step of healing is withdrawal. And withdrawal shakes. It burns. It screams. But it also cleanses. It rips the false love out of your veins. And it teaches you that the silence you fear is the silence that saves. Jung believed we all carry within us the masculine and the feminine, the anima, the animus. And maybe the reason this hurts so much is because he activated your inner masculine, your drive to pursue, to chase, to fix. And now, it's time to awaken your feminine, not the passive one, not the submissive one, the powerful one, the intuitive one, the one who doesn't chase, but attracts, who doesn't beg, but receives, who doesn't fall apart, but rises, slowly, silently, in power. This is the real reason he doesn't text you back. Not because you're not enough, but because you're too much. Too much truth, too much light, too much soul. You terrify a man who lives in fragments. You overwhelm a man who never met his own shadow. You deserve more than a half-formed soul hiding behind a screen. You deserve presence, depth, courage. You deserve a man who texts not to keep you, but to honor you. Not because he's bored, but because he sees. And most men don't see. They scan, they use, they forget. But you are unforgettable. Not because of your beauty, but because of your depth. Your soul remembers, even when you try to forget. So stop waiting. Stop checking. Stop doubting. Start seeing. Start hearing the voice beneath the pain. The voice that says, "You're not alone. You never were. You were just distracted by the wrong story." And now, the story changes. Now, the heroine rises. He doesn't text you back. And still, part of you waits. Not because you believe he'll return, but because somewhere deep in your unconscious, you're still trying to rewrite the past. You're not just waiting for a man. You're waiting for a father who never saw you. A teacher who overlooked you. A world that taught you that silence is your fault. But what if it's not? What if the silence isn't judgment but liberation? What if it's not rejection but redirection? You asked for love. You were given the truth. And truth doesn't come in a sweet voice. It arrives like a slap. You want closure. But there is no closure for illusions. They dissolve. They vanish. Like fog in sunlight. And the sunlight is brutal. It shows what you couldn't see before. That you were never really seen. That you were an idea in his mind, a placeholder, a comfort zone, until you became too real, too emotional, too awake. Then you became a threat, and he ran. Not from you, from the mirror you held, from the parts of himself he swore he'd never confront. And now you're left holding the mirror. Alone, Carl Jung said that your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. You've been dreaming of a love that would heal you, of a man who would finally choose you. But that dream was never yours. It was planted by stories, by movies, by mothers who told you to be pretty and patient. But patience doesn't fix avoidance, and beauty doesn't cure blindness. He couldn't see you, not because you were invisible, but because he was blind. And now you begin to see yourself. Not the filtered version, not the curated persona, the real one, the one who aches, who screams, who hopes, who breaks. And in that breaking, something sacred is born. The wild woman, the one who remembers, the one who stops waiting and starts weaving. A new life, a new story, a new identity, one that doesn't hinge on being wanted, one that doesn't collapse when a man disappears, one that says, I will no longer audition for love, because that's what you've been doing, auditioning, editing yourself, smiling when you wanted to cry, staying silent when your soul wanted to roar, sending another just checking in text when your dignity wanted to walk away. But your soul is tired. She's done begging. She's done shrinking. She's done playing small. And now she's whispering a new mantra. I choose me. This silence, it's not a punishment. It's a womb, a place where the old you dies and the new you begins. But rebirth is not romantic. It's messy. It's terrifying. It's lonely. And yet, it's sacred. Because for the first time, you're not shaping yourself to fit into someone else's absence. You're becoming whole. And whole women don't chase. They attract. They radiate. They own their space. And the kind of man who deserves her, he doesn't run. He doesn't vanish. He doesn't leave her questioning her worth. You don't need a text to feel valuable. You don't need a response to validate your beauty, your depth, your heart. You don't need breadcrumbs. You need a feast. And the first bite is truth. The truth that he wasn't the one. He was the test, the fire, the forge, the sacred wound that cracked you open. And now you bleed. But that blood writes a new story, a story where you are not the abandoned. You are the reborn. There is rage in you. Let it rise. There is grief in you. Let it pour. Don't numb it. Don't spiritualize it. Don't make excuses for him. Don't say he's healing busy, confused. Say the truth. He was a boy in a man's body. And you were a queen waiting for a crown that would never come. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. And clarity is power. Not the power to hurt him. The power to resurrect you. Jung taught that the shadow is not evil. It's truth we refuse to see. And now you see that you gave your power away, that you made a boy your god, that you ignored the signs, that you betrayed yourself in the name of potential. But you will not shame yourself for that. You will not hate the girl who believed, who tried, who stayed. You will honor her, and then you will bury her, gently, because she was the seed. But you are the bloom. He doesn't text you back, and he never will. Not in the way you wanted, not with the words that would fix the fracture. But that's okay, because this was never about him. It was about you. Finally hearing the voice beneath all the noise, the voice that says, stop reaching, start remembering. Remember who you were before the ache, before the need, before you made your worth dependent on a stranger's attention. That girl is still here, fierce, free, unbreakable. And now, you text yourself back. You reply to your soul, and she answers loud and clear, welcome back. You were never lost. You were just asleep. He doesn't text you back. And now, you've stopped expecting it. But that doesn't mean it doesn't sting. It still does. In quiet moments. In the gaps between tasks. When the world slows down just enough for your unconscious to whisper again. Not about him, but about you. Because this was never about a man ignoring a message. This was about you finally hearing your own. You silenced yourself for so long. You were always waiting for permission, for confirmation, for someone to tell you, you're worthy now. And when he came along, when he gave you even an ounce of attention, you mistook it for divinity. You thought maybe this time, this man, this moment would be different. But it wasn't. It was the same lesson wearing a different face, a new mask for the same wound. Rejection. Not because you were unlovable, but because he was incapable of presence, of depth, of love, of truth. Carl Jung taught that what we do not make conscious appears as fate. So here you are, again, staring at a screen that never lights up, and calling it bad luck. But it's not. It's your shadow, asking to be seen, asking to be felt. The shadow isn't the part of you that's unworthy, it's the part of you that believes you need to prove your worth at all. The part that was told early on that silence meant you weren't enough, that love was earned, that attention was currency, And now you spend yourself dry trying to afford affection that was never real. You don't just want a text, you want reassurance, a sign, something that says, you matter. But that voice has to come from within now. Because if it doesn't, you'll keep handing your soul to boys dressed as men, hoping they'll say what your own mother never could, hoping they'll love the parts of you you've been taught to hate. But they can't, and they won't, because they don't know how, because they've never loved themselves either. And so it goes. Another cycle, another silence, another night where you wonder if you're the problem. And in a way, you are. Not because you're broken, but because you're still reaching for the wrong thing. You think you want love, but what you really want is rescue. You want someone to pull you from the pit of self-abandonment, but no one can save you from the version of yourself you became just to be wanted. This isn't a love story. This is a resurrection. And resurrection is not soft. It's not romantic. It's a ripping, a returning, a remembering of the woman you were before you were conditioned to believe that longing meant loving, that silence meant shame, that being ignored meant you had to work harder. But your soul is done working for crumbs. She's starving, and she's not hungry for men. She's hungry for truth, for rawness, for aliveness. And maybe that's why he couldn't stay. Maybe he tasted that fire and realized he would have to burn too. And he wasn't ready, because most people aren't. Most people want warmth, not fire, comfort, not transformation. And you? You are the storm that breaks the silence. Let it break. Let it all break. The hope, the fantasy, the illusion. Let it collapse. Not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up. You were never supposed to be chosen by someone who couldn't even choose themselves. You were supposed to choose yourself, fiercely, loudly, publicly, shamelessly. That's the real rebellion. A woman who stops apologizing for wanting more. A woman who stops explaining her sensitivity. A woman who stops translating her silence into self-hate. A woman who finally says, "If my depth scares you, go drown elsewhere." Jung wrote that people will do anything to avoid confronting their souls, including disappearing, including ghosting, including pretending you never mattered. But that's not your burden. You don't need to chase closure from someone who ran from truth. You don't need to decode his silence like it's sacred scripture. His silence is not a riddle. It's a revelation. He is not coming back, not because you are forgettable, but because you are unforgettable, and that terrifies him. There are men who will worship your body, but abandon your soul. Men who will flirt with your light, but flee from your darkness. Men who will sip your magic, but spit out your truth. But one day, one will come who stays. Not because he's perfect, but because he's done running from himself. Until then, become that person for yourself. The one who doesn't run. The one who stays. Through the silence. Through the ache. Through the chaos. He doesn't text you back, but your soul never stops speaking. You just forgot how to listen. He doesn't text you back, and now you don't need him to. Not because you're healed, not because you're over it, but because something deeper than closure has taken root in you. Awareness. And awareness is the death of the fantasy. It's the moment you realize he was never the source of your pain. He was the mirror reflecting it. You projected love where there was vacancy. You called it connection, but it was recognition of your own wound, of your own abandonment. You weren't in love with him. You were in love with the possibility of finally being chosen. But the soul doesn't crave being chosen. It craves being remembered. You forgot yourself for him. You minimized, softened, contorted. You stopped asking questions. You stopped breathing into your own rhythm. And the silence he gave you? It wasn't the beginning of your suffering. It was the echo of a silence you'd been carrying for years. The silence of your own disconnection from the woman inside you who never needed to beg to be loved. The woman who knows she is already the fire, not the moth. Carl Jung believed that we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And this ache, this waiting, this never-ending scan for a message that doesn't come, it's darkness, not because it's evil, but because it's unconscious. You were trying to fix the past through a man who never stood a chance, and now the illusion is dead. And now, you are finally free. Not the kind of freedom you post on social media, the kind of freedom that terrifies, the freedom to sit alone, to feel the nothing, to not distract yourself with a new name, a new body, a new game. The kind of freedom that demands you rebuild from ash, that tells you, if no one ever texts you back again, who will you become? And the answer, the terrifying, exhilarating answer, is yourself. Not the self they wanted you to be. Not the self who smiled and waited. The raw one, the wild one. The one who speaks without fear. The one who doesn't hide her hunger. The one who walks away from tables that offer empty plates and hollow promises. That version of you, she's been buried under layers of performance. But now, the performance is over. The curtain has fallen, and in the wreckage, she stands. He doesn't text you back, and that used to be a tragedy. Now it's a ritual, the sacred silence that breaks the cycle. You are no longer available for men who don't meet themselves. You are no longer available for trauma dressed as romance. You are no longer available for emotional crumbs. You are the feast. And you will no longer starve to keep another's ego full. This is not the end of a story. This is the beginning of initiation. The moment the girl dies and the woman rises. And the woman does not beg. She does not wait. She does not question her worth every time a man forgets her name. She walks. She writes. She breathes into the emptiness and fills it with her own voice, her own hands, her own spine. You may still miss him. That's okay. You may still wish things had gone differently. That's okay too. The wound doesn't vanish. It integrates. It becomes wisdom. It becomes armor. Not the kind that hardens, but the kind that holds. Because the most dangerous thing a woman can be is soft and awake at the same time. And that's who you are now. Awake. Not because he texted back, but because he didn't. And in that space, you found yourself. Carl Jung wrote, "Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life." So let the paradox live. You can love someone and still walk away. You can feel rejected and still know your worth. You can miss him and still choose you. This is wholeness. This is integration. This is the woman who knows that silence is not the enemy. It's the teacher. He doesn't text you back, and maybe he never will. But it no longer matters, because you did something more important. You replied to your own soul. And that message, the one you send every time you refuse to abandon yourself again, will echo louder than any text ever could. You are no longer waiting. You are rising. So now, it ends. Not with a text. Not with an apology. Not with some cinematic reunion where he suddenly realizes what he lost. No. It ends here. With you. Breathing. Awake. Wiser than you were when this all began. You survived the silence. You sat in it, screaming inside, and still. You stayed. You faced the demon no one else could see. The one that told you love was something you had to earn, to chase, to suffer for. And now, that demon is quiet, not gone, but seen. And what is seen can no longer control you, because this was never about a man. It was about the way you abandoned yourself to be chosen, the way you sacrificed your wholeness to feel wanted, the way you handed your worth to someone who didn't even know what to do with his own. And now, for the first time, you've stopped, not because the pain is over, but because you finally understand it. You finally listened, not to his silence, but to your voice beneath it. You will still remember him. Of course you will. The fantasy doesn't vanish overnight, but now it no longer owns you. You've walked through the fire of rejection and found out it didn't kill you. It carved you, sculpted you, revealed you. And maybe one day he'll realize what you were, what he couldn't hold. But that realization, that's not your salvation. That's his consequence. Yours is this freedom, this clarity, this fierce rebirth. You don't need revenge. You don't need to be remembered by him. You need only to remember yourself, and you will. Every time you feel the urge to reach out, you'll reach in instead. Every time you crave a message, you'll send one to your heart. Every time you feel the ache, you'll honor it, not as weakness, but as proof that you were willing to feel what most people never even dare to face. Because that's who you are now. Not the girl he forgot, but the woman who remembered. So this is where we end, not in a whisper, in a war cry. And the battlefield, your body, the weapon, your truth, the victory, your return. You are not waiting anymore. You are becoming. And that is everything.